going to start. So the first thing we're gonna do, I'm actually going to change to this video over here. Okay, awesome. So we're gonna start with our plantains. Okay, I'm using these 2 plantains over here. Sometimes you only find plantains that are a little more ripe. I recommend using green plantains because they're much, they're less soft, if that sort of makes sense. And you're gonna be able to cook it much better. So I would just recommend if you have a ripe plantain, save it to make tajadas, to make oven-baked plantains. To make tostones, you wanna use green plantains. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do with our tostones, we're going to cut both ends off, okay? Oh, very important also. I always like to have a little garbage bowl on the side, just to like put my garbage in here and not have to go back and forth between the garbage and wherever you're cooking. So I'm just gonna keep this over here. Now we're gonna take our plantains and with our knife, very carefully, because you don't wanna cut yourself, you're just gonna make a few lines going through just the peel, okay? If you go much deeper, it's okay, of course, don't worry. But you just wanna go deep enough that it only goes through the skin, okay? Then you're gonna do it. You're gonna do a couple of these lines all around your plantain, so it's easier to peel the plantain, okay? And you're gonna notice, if you've worked with plantains before, that ripe plantains are much harder to peel, okay? And that's where our spoon comes in. It's just a regular spoon, okay? What I'm gonna do is in my lines that I made, I'm going to put in the spoon to help peel off the skin, okay? Sometimes, of course, they're harder than others. Sometimes it's easier to even use your finger. So if you prefer to use a finger, which this time it worked better, just use your finger. There are other times that the spoon works better, but you just sort of, you know, use the spoon to get in there and then, you know, rip off the peel of the plantain, okay? So you're gonna do that. And then you're just gonna put this on the side and do the same thing with the other plantain, okay? You're gonna cut off both ends, right here, put it in our garbage bowl, and then do those incisions, those lines again, only trying to go through the peel. And by the way, if you only have ripe plantains, don't worry, it's still gonna work. You're just gonna have to be a little bit more careful because the plantain is much more slippery, and you may have to bake it for a little longer, but it still works. But of course, how I said, it's better to just use a green plantain, all right? So I'm just gonna go in with my finger or with the spoon. Again, it really depends on, you know, what mood the plantain is in. Sometimes it works with a spoon, sometimes it works better with our fingers. All right, you're just gonna remove all of the skin of the plantain. This one seems a little harder. So again, this is, you see how I just sort of put in the spoon and kind of go up and down between the shell and the flesh. And then I just take that right off. It is a little bit messy, but super worth it. My husband is sick of tostones because I make them so often. I even made him a whole different dinner for tonight because he can't have any more tostones. That's how good. I mean, I love them way more than he does, but I always have just tostones in the fridge and then I'll reheat them. And with whatever leftover food you have, you can just top it, put it on top of the tostones, and you have a meal that's ready. So that's great. Okay. So I'm sure if this is not your first time with me here, you probably have realized that I always clean my counter in between everything I do. So I'm just gonna wipe this down, and now we're gonna cut our plantains into rounds, okay? And you can totally choose how big you wanna make them, okay? The difference between the sizes is how big your tostones will end up being. So if you want a smaller tostón, then you're gonna cut like a piece about 1 inch thick, okay? If you want the tostón to be much wider, then you would cut a bigger piece. I'm not gonna cut it, or you would maybe even cut a piece like that. But I want mine to be sort of that size. So my pieces are gonna be sort of like 1 inch in size, all right? And then I'm gonna do the same thing with my other plantain. And again, you don't have to cut them perfectly. They're gonna work no matter what. All right, now I'm gonna bring in my deep dish, okay? I'm gonna place my tostones in here, nothing fancy, just dump it in there, okay? And now Give me one moment. I'm just gonna get some water. You could obviously go to your sink and fill it up. I'm just gonna fill up a measuring cup. And I'm just gonna completely cover the tostones. So again, the amount of water is going to depend on how big your bowl or your baking dish is. All right, so over here, I'm almost adding like 4 cups of water. You just want it to completely cover the tostones, okay? I'm actually gonna add just a little bit more to make sure. So why are we putting this in water? A lot of people have asked me in the past, all right? The water and the salt that we're about to add right now is going to help prevent the plantains, and then when they become tostones, the tostones, it's gonna prevent them from burning inside your oven or inside your air fryer. Okay, so now I completely covered my plantains in water, and I'm just getting a really generous pinch of salt. There's no measurements here, just eyeball it. We're gonna be removing it from the water anyways. Now I'm just gonna give it a nice little mix over here, and I'm gonna move this to the side, all right? I'm just gonna leave this to the side here, and I'm gonna put a timer for about 15 minutes or so. The longer you leave it, of course, the better. I wouldn't exceed more than 30 minutes. Ideally, 20 minutes is more than enough. I'm just gonna put 15 because, you know, we're here in the class and I don't wanna make it too long, but 15 is gonna work just fine. Alrighty, so any questions so far? Again, please feel free to ask anything, just unmute yourself and ask away. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do, and I'm actually going to change the camera real quick. All right, so what I'm gonna do right now, I have my 2 bowls, okay? I'm gonna put my 2 bowls right in front of my cutting dish, and I'm gonna start cutting all the vegetables and start placing them in their corresponding bowls, okay? So just choose which one's gonna be your Asian style ceviche and which bowl is gonna be for your Mexican style ceviche, and then just make sure that you're putting the ingredients in the correct bowl, okay? And if in the future you wanna make this recipe, you don't have to make them both at the same time. That's why in the cooking guide, I specifically divided the recipes between which ingredients are for the Asian style, which ingredients are for the Mexican, so in the future, you're able to make it if you'd like. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the cutting board camera, and we're gonna start chopping, okay? So the first thing we're gonna chop is the ingredients that we're gonna be using for both, okay? So I'm first gonna chop up my red onion. And again, I have my garbage bowl right here next to me because, you know, we have to first remove the skin and all that kind of stuff. So super important. The end that looks like a root is the end that you want to leave on your onion. This will help the onion stay together while you're chopping it. So the other end is the one that I'm going to just cut off, okay? And this is gonna go straight into my garbage bowl. Guys, if I'm going too fast or you're not at the same speed as me, just let me know and I'll go a little slower, okay? And now remember that for one of the ceviches, I have my 2 bowls over here. For one of them, well, actually each of them are gonna be, have half of a red onion in it. So I'm really just gonna chop all of the red onion and then put half of it in one bowl and half in the other. All right, so I'm gonna chop my onion, try to do it evenly so it's easy to cut. All right, bringing back my garbage bowl, and I'm just gonna peel the, all of this right off. If it sticks to it, you can also just remove that first layer, or if it easily peels off, you can just remove it. For the sake of time, I'm just gonna peel it all off. If I was just, you know, cooking and very relaxed and stuff, I would take my time and peel it. And I'm just gonna clean that part right there. And now go back to that second half and just remove all of that. Alrighty. And then we are going to start chopping. Awesome. And again, sometimes there's some leftover dirt on the bottom over here. Just take that off and make sure to clean your cutting board and your knife because it also ends up with a little bit of the dirt from the onion. Awesome, so let's get chopping. So for our ceviche, we want a really fine dice because of course it's gonna be raw, it's raw onion. You don't wanna be eating your ceviche and then get a really big piece of of onion. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna show it to you this way, but basically I have it in the half, like I have it like this, and then I'm gonna make cuts horizontally like this through the onion, but not all the way to the end. You're gonna stop right before reaching its little butt over here, okay? So again, you want to, it's gonna be a fine dice, so you want to make a few slices right through the middle, just like that. Again, remember not to go all the way to the end. Be careful with your fingers. All right, and then we're just gonna make vertical cuts right down from the little butt to the front, okay? You just wanna be careful. Sometimes you might need to do it like in a diagonal to make sure that you can cut, every piece. Now we're just going straight down. Since I made many cuts before, this might be a little trickier, but take your time, guys. And I'm gonna show you after something you can do to cut it even smaller. All right, now we're just gonna chop it. Chop it, dice it into small, fine dices. Just like that. Alrighty, so remember, we're using half for one ceviche and half for the other, okay? So if you feel that your dices are still too thick, all right, you can put the end of your knife, the tip, right in the middle, in between your whole like pile of onions. Place your fingers right in the front and just chop back and forth through your pile of diced onions, okay? And this will give it an extra finer chop. But this is optional. If you feel like that your chopping was perfect before and the size of the dices is good with you, then you're fine. Perfect. And now remember, we're doing half in one and half in the other. So I'm just gonna place this half straight into one of my bowls. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Awesome. I don't know about you guys, but my eyes are starting to water. All right, let's go to our next onion. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing we did before, right? Because we're still trying to get that fine dice. So I'm gonna make my little incisions. Sometimes it's easier to do it like this. All right, be careful with your fingers. We don't wanna get cut. Okay, then we're gonna do those vertical cuts. And this technique of dicing really works with most vegetables, okay? So this is a great way to practice. And I always recommend to just practice in general, because the way you cut your vegetables or any ingredient that you're working with is really going to determine the way that your end plate is gonna look and how it's gonna taste and all the combination of flavors. So it's really important to learn how to chop correctly. All right, and now we're just gonna chop and create our small dice. I hear someone is unmuting themselves. Any questions? If you don't have any question, I just make sure that we keep our mute on. Perfect. All right, and when I end up with like a little extra piece that has no slices in it, I just sort of create smaller slices like this, because you never want to waste that, and then just chop it up. Okay, and the same thing on the other side. Make a few slices and chop that up. All right, and again, I kind of want to make this a little bit smaller. So I'm just gonna go back and forth with my knife to cut my onions a little finer. All right, and feel comfortable to go all around your cutting board. All righty. And now I have my second bowl over here. I'm gonna put my onion, this half of an onion over there. So I see that my onion was really big, so I might end up taking out a little bit, just because I don't want that much onion into my ceviche, but I'm actually gonna leave some of this over here on this side. All right. Let's see. Okie dokie. Any questions so far, guys? I think we're pretty good. I'm just gonna grab a plate to put my extra onion. And if you feel like you also wanna remove some onion, go for it, okay? And just store it in the fridge Okay, I'm actually just gonna put it into my plate over here, store it in the fridge, and then you'll always have, you know, some diced onions for a quick omelet. You might make some ground beef. So I always like to have freshly chopped vegetables in my fridge for quick and easy recipes. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next ingredient. All right, let's chop our garlic. Okay, so I'm gonna use 2 cloves of garlic for one of them, and another 2 cloves in the other plate. Okay, feel free to use as much or as little of garlic that you'd like. Okay, remember, this is your dish, so it doesn't matter the amount that you put in. Okay, so an easy way to remove the skin from your garlic is to use like the back end of your knife, place it right on top of the garlic clove, and with your hand, you're gonna press that down. You're sort of gonna mash the garlic. And you're gonna see that when you do that, the skin is going to easily remove itself from the actual, like the meat of the garlic. You see, very easy peel. I'm gonna do the same with all of my garlics. Some of them are a little harder, depending on their thickness, you see, but just like that, with a little bit of pressure, the skin easily comes off. So I'm just gonna do that with all of my garlics. See? There we go. Don't worry if you mash it too much, because we're gonna dice this and try to make it as, like, cut it as small as possible. So if you mash it too much, don't even worry about it. Alrighty. Okay, and now I have my garlics here. Okay, what I'm gonna do to each of them, I'm first gonna slice them like this, just like that. You wanna make it as thin as possible. Okay, so I really like to, when I'm cutting things, I like to do everything at the same time. So since I have 4 of them, I'm gonna slice all 4 first. Okay, and then after I'll chop them. So I'm just slicing them. The thinner the better, but if you can't do it too thin, don't worry. We're gonna come back and keep on chopping, so don't worry about that. All right, so thinly slice these. And now I'm just gonna kind of make a big pile of my garlic. If you don't feel comfortable cutting all the garlic at one time, you can divide it into 2 groups. I'm trying to do it in like an angle that the camera's pointing. There we go. And now I'm just gonna dice through, all right? So we cut them into thin slices, and now we're gonna go against that slice. So we cut them into small dices. All right, and I'm just gonna go up and down through all of the garlic. Okay, I'm gonna bring that all together. Perfect. And now that same trick that I taught you for the onions, we're gonna do with the garlic. So place the tip of your knife on one end, put your fingers, and just go back and forth to really, really mince this garlic. Okay, whenever you see in recipes that it says minced garlic, it means really finely chopped garlic. All right, there are even some chefs that use their knife and go like this, and they just sort of like mash it like this while they're cutting to make it really, really fine. So again, you do you. I'm just showing you different tricks to help you out. Again, remember that you're gonna be eating this raw. So you do wanna take the time to finely dice this. I don't think anyone wants to bite into their ceviche and bite into a huge piece of garlic. So really take your time and cut this up. Okay, and I think if you would ask me what's my least favorite vegetable to chop, it would be garlic, because your hands always end up smelling so much like garlic. So I actually buy pre-chopped garlic that's it's like preserved in some olive oil, but I only like to use that one when I'm gonna actually cook the garlic. When I'm gonna eat raw garlic, I do like to use fresh garlic because it really makes a difference. But again, if you don't have fresh garlic and you're just using that one that comes in a can and in like a container, you're fine. Alrighty, so you can see after a few minutes, the garlic is really finely diced. Okay, and remember, we're gonna put half in one bowl and half in the other. So I'm just gonna evenly spread this and just take half of it, place it in one bowl, and the other half, and place it in the other bowl. Any extra, you can just split up in between both of them, all right? And this is where your paper towels come in. You just wipe down your hands if they're covered in garlic, like mine are. Okay, now we're gonna move on to our ginger. Okay, so I'm actually gonna be using frozen crushed ginger. I'm gonna show it to you. I really love this product. Okay, it's like 20 little cubes and each of them are 1 teaspoon. Okay, but since it's frozen, I'm actually going to put it on my cutting board and chop it up. Okay, but if you're using, I'm actually gonna go back to the main camera over here so we could talk real quick. If you are using fresh garlic, fresh ginger, the way to peel the skin off is with a spoon. Okay, you don't want to use a knife because it's going to take off most of the meat from the ginger, and a peeler sometimes is too hard. So just grab your ginger and using your spoon, you're just going to hold your spoon like this and you're going to scrape off the skin from the ginger. Okay, just going to go back and forth around the ginger, and once you've completely peeled it, you're gonna chop it the same way we just chopped the garlic. Okay, so if you do have fresh ginger, that's what you're gonna do. If you have frozen ginger like I do, let me go back to the other camera. If you have frozen ginger like I do, I'm just gonna take out 2 of these, right? Because we're using 1 teaspoon each, if I'm not mistaken. I don't memorize my recipe, so let me go back just to make sure. So we're actually just using garlic for 1 of them, all right? So each of these squares is 1 teaspoon. So I'm just gonna use 2 of these, okay? Awesome, the timer for the plantains are ready. We're just gonna hold on to that 1 second. So here are my frozen garlic cubes. I'm just gonna chop through them so I can have really finely diced ginger, sorry. So if you're chopping your fresh one, chop it the way that I explained before. If you have frozen like I do, you're gonna be cutting it like this, okay? You don't want a really big piece of ginger. All right, and again, I'm just gonna go back and forth until I cut it into really small pieces. Don't worry about this being frozen, okay? While you're cutting it, it's defrosting and it's gonna be in really small pieces. So from now until the time that you're gonna have dinner, it's gonna be defrosted. So don't worry about that, okay? And I'm actually gonna use the spoon that I had before to sort of just mash it down a little. Okay. Perfect. I'm just gonna slice that 1 more time. You want that to be, and already this frozen ginger comes crushed. So you won't have big pieces, but since it was frozen, I just wanna make sure that it's small. Okay, so I'm gonna put my ginger into the Asian style ceviche bowl, okay? The Mexican ceviche does not have ginger, so make sure you only add it to the Asian style one. Alrighty, guys, I'm gonna look at the camera. I wanna see where everyone's at to see if we're ready to move on to the plantains. I see everyone's still dicing over here. If you have your camera on, can you give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move on to the plantains?
Steph, okay, cool. Question.
Yes, question.
Is there garlic in both?
Yes, there's garlic in both. Right now, both of the bowls have the onion, the red onion. Both of the bowls have the garlic, and only one of the bowls has the ginger.
Perfect, thank you.
That's where we're at right now. No, of course. Thank you. All right, guys, so let's move on to our plantains, okay? Let me go back to this. Okay, so I have my plantains. I'm just gonna bring it gently over, right? Because remember that it was filled in a bowl with water, okay? And now you can either use a kitchen towel or some paper towels. I like to use a kitchen towel, okay? I'm gonna get my plantains. Let me make sure that you guys can see this. 1 second. Let's do it this way. Okay. So I have my kitchen towel right here and my plantains. So I'm just gonna grab my plantains, okay, and just put them on my kitchen towel, okay? We're gonna super, super dry them. You don't want them to be wet, okay? So I'm just gonna, you know what? I think it's better if I put the video on this camera. Okay, cool. Yeah, this one's better. Okay, so I'm putting my plantains on a paper towel or a kitchen towel. I recommend the kitchen towel, okay? And now you're just going to cover it and go back and forth with your hands. Okay, remember the plantains are circular, so it's gonna be easy to just go back and forth to completely dry them, okay? So just let these chill right here in your towel. And that bowl that has water, you're going to dump the water out, okay? And dry that bowl, because we don't want to use too many bowls, okay? So I'm just gonna get since I'm using my kitchen towel with my plantains, I'm gonna get a paper towel and just dry that bowl so we don't have any water, okay? Now I'm just going to place my dried plantains into my dried bowl, all right? Let's move that here. All right, and you're gonna get some oil. You can use any kind of oil. I'm gonna be using some olive oil, okay? And another tip that I'm gonna give you guys, I love putting all of my liquid ingredients into these squishy bottles. This is just like a regular ketchup bottle. I bought a pack of like 8, and I have one for my olive oil, one for regular oil. I have this little one for the sesame oil. I have another one for balsamic vinegar, rice vinegar. You get the point. I super recommend it. So now I'm just gonna drizzle a generous amount of oil onto my plantains and just mix it around, okay? Make sure that all of the plantains have a good coating of oil, okay? Remember, we're gonna be putting these into the oven or into the air fryer. So you do want it to have a little bit of oil so they don't come out too dry, okay? But if you're super healthy and just wanna add a little bit or like a spray, that also works. And of course, the oil prevents the plantains from sticking to your baking dish. Okay, so I'm not gonna show this because I have my whole setup over here, but I'm going to put these, if you're putting them in the oven, get your baking sheet. You could actually even put them like these if you're using a Pyrex like I am, or just put it on a baking dish, okay? I'm actually gonna be putting mine in my air fryer, okay? So just open up your air fryer and place these, okay? I'm actually gonna come back here. You wanna make sure to place these like this, okay? So let's say my hand is your pan or the pan of your air fryer. You want the plantains to be in this position. Not like this, because then they're gonna roll around everywhere. You wanna make sure that they're placed like this, okay? Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm over here in my air fryer and putting my plantains in here.
Steph, question.
Yes.
Because I came late. The plátanos, you put them in what at the beginning?
I put them in water, a little bit of water, not a little bit, in a lot of water. You wanna make sure the water completely covers the plantains with a nice pinch of salt, okay? You leave it in the water, for about 15 to 20 minutes. And what the water does is that it prevents the plantains to burn either in your air fryer or in your oven. Depends what you're using.
Dale, thank you.
Cool, of course, you're welcome.
¿Cuánto tiempo y a qué temperatura?
Okay, so this one's a tricky one because my air fryer is actually an air fryer / toaster oven. So I only have an air fryer, like a mode. It doesn't let me choose the degrees, but I would say like 400 degrees, because you're only going to keep this in here for about 10 minutes. And that's what I just put. I put it in my air fryer mode and put the timer to 10 minutes. We're not going to cook the plantains completely through. You only want the plantains to soften. So once we go and smash them with the plate, they're soft enough to be smashed. See? ¿Entendiste, Fortu?
Sí.
Buenísimo. All right, guys. Let me just make sure we're all muted. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going back to chopping, okay?
Sorry, I have a quick question.
No, of course.
My air fryer is really small. Do I need to like give them a little space, like between?
You do not
plantains?
need to give them space. No, you can,
Okay.
obviously you want to make sure that it has enough room. Let me just show myself over here. You
Okay.
want to make sure that it has enough room to like breathe, but they can be right next to each other because they're not going to expand or grow or anything. But when you're going to go in and cook the actual tostón, like after we mash them, you're going to have to do them in a few, like in a few, what's the word? Tandas. It doesn't
like
come
batches,
to me the word in English. Exactly. So you're going to have to put a few at one time and then cook the rest afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, guys. You are super welcome. All right, so again, just to recap for anyone that just joined, we have our 2 bowls, our 2 ceviche bowls. In both of them, we have the diced onions. In both of them, we have the garlic. And in only one of them, we have the ginger, okay? The Asian style bowl, that's where you put the ginger. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my cutting board and we're gonna continue cutting, guys. Okay, now we're gonna cut, let me see, I have to open up over here. Now we are going to cut the tomato, okay? So we have one tomato over here. This tomato is for the Mexican style ceviche, okay? And usually I tell everyone to remove the seeds, but you do not want to remove the seeds now because remember, you want all of that delicious liquid from the tomatoes to be part of your ceviche, okay? So I'm just gonna cut my tomato right down the middle, okay? And then this is how I like to remove my core. If you have a different way of doing it, go ahead. I just like to take my knife and very gently cut across, not across, like right under the core, just like that, all right? So it removes that core, but it still keeps all the seeds intact, okay? And I'm gonna do that for both of my, well, both halves of the tomato, all right? This goes into my garbage bowl. And now I'm just gonna dice these up, okay? So the way I like to do it is I first make rounds, just like that, okay? And then I put them all right on top of each other. And in the opposite way of the rounds, I'm gonna make slices, okay? Do it gently because the tomato is very slippery. So you're just gonna cut a few slices like this, very gently, okay? And then we're gonna go across the other way to cut this into diced pieces, okay? So it's your call how big or how small you wanna make the tomatoes, okay? I'm gonna make them, I would say like a medium size, probably like this size, okay? But if you want it a little bit smaller, just dice it smaller. If you want it bigger, dice it bigger. Again, this is your ceviche, so whatever you prefer, all right? I'm just going through my tomato, just like that. And remember, you want all of that liquid. So I'm gonna grab it all with my knife and put it in the Mexican style bowl, the one that does not have ginger, okay? You see how I'm sort of with my hand taking all of that liquid, trying to put it onto my knife and putting it in there. All right, now let's dice the other half. Again, I'm gonna slice it just like this. As you can see, tomatoes are very slippery. All right, now we're gonna make slices this way. And now slices the other way to dice our tomato. So the technique that I showed you guys before, the one that was like this, to chop your vegetables smaller, I would not recommend with the tomato, okay? When you're cutting a tomato, you really wanna cut it very gently because the skin can kind of like curdle and get weird and you don't wanna chop that off. So for a tomato, you definitely wanna chop it very, very softly. They're a very delicate vegetable. But if you do see bigger pieces, just go ahead and, you know, take them out and cut them. But do not go back and forth like this. Do not do that. I'm just gonna grab all of my tomato here and dump it into the bowl. Yes?
El tomate es para la que no tiene jengibre.
Exactamente.
Okay.
Buenísimo. For those that may not speak Spanish, she was just asking me the tomatoes go in the one that does not have ginger, and that is correct, okay? The tomatoes go into the Mexican style bowl and the ginger goes into the Asian style bowl, okay? And that also shows us, you know, what ingredients are used in each of the cultures. Ginger is primarily used in Asian style food. All right, so as you can see, I just took a paper towel. I'm wiping this down and my knife as well. And now we're gonna go on and chop our cilantro, okay? So another really awesome tip. I love, and if you've been here before to my classes, you have seen this container. This is lightly dried cilantro. Let's see if you can see it. See, it says lightly dried. I have one of these for cilantro, one for parsley, one for basil. I love them. They last like 4 weeks in your fridge. Usually like a regular bunch of cilantro just lasts like a week. And it already comes diced, okay? And chopped, sorry. But I'm actually gonna chop it even thinner. So I'm just gonna take a good amount. Remember that we're gonna be putting 1 tablespoon into one of the bowls and another tablespoon in the other bowl. So you kind of wanna have about 2 tablespoons, okay? But if you have, let me come back to the main screen. If you're using just a bunch of cilantro, fresh cilantro, you're first gonna remove the leaves, okay? And then you're gonna chop it up. So the only extra step you have is remove the leaves, because I'm about to start chopping this, okay? But your extra step would just be removing the leaves from the stem. You do not want the stem. If you're cooking, like let's say you're gonna add some herbs into a soup or something, I'm gonna go back to the cutting board, then in that kind of recipe, you can add the stem because it adds some extra flavor. But when you're using it to garnish, or you're gonna be using it raw like this, you're not gonna cook it down, do not use the stem. They are very bitter. Okay, so I wanna make this much, much smaller. So that same technique we used before, I'm gonna use it now. You're gonna pile up the cilantro, put the tip of the knife on one end, right in between the pile, put your fingers over here and just go back and forth and chop this super, super finely, okay? The smaller it is, the better, because it will get all over the rest of the ingredients. All right, so you can see that this is super thin. I'm sure most of you right now are smelling your plantain. So if you want to keep an eye on it, just check it to make sure that the temperature is not too hot if it's in the air fryer. Definitely give it a little look. We don't want to get burnt plantains. All right, so you can see mine is really small. I'm actually going to go check on my plantains. They're looking super, super good. I'm actually going to flip them, and this is optional, okay? So just take them out from your air fryer and give them a little flip. Again, really optional. I'm a little OCD with that kind of stuff. So just to make sure that they, yes, questions.
Los dos llevan cilantro.
Los dos llevan cilantro, sí.
Okay. And also,
both of the bowls are going to have cilantro, guys.
okay, and how big the piece of, if I have fresh ginger, how big should it be?
If you have fresh, you're gonna cut it the same way we cut the onion, okay? So I'm gonna bring it close.
How much of a piece? I don't know if this is too much. I don't have an idea.
Let me look at you. Frida, is that you, right?
Sí.
Yes, déjame verte. A ver, muéstrame. Ok, solo usa tipo esa parte, exacto, esa parte.
El chiquitico este.
Exacto.
Sí, porque es fuerte el ginger, ¿no?
Exactamente. Y usa, como dije antes, usa espérate, estoy aquí. Usa una cuchara así para que puedas pelar la concha de...
¿Mojado o seco?
No, no, sequito, sequito. Solo usa la cuchara y vas a como, con fuerza, le vas a poner presión. Y piensa que mis dedos son el jengibre y vas a hacerle así al jengibre para quitarle la concha.
Okay, perfect.
Okay? And of course, you're welcome. If you have fresh ginger, guys, and you don't wanna chop it, you can also use a grater. Okay, so you just grab, I'm pretending that I have it here, but you just grab a grater, your ginger, and you grate it really, really finely. That's also an option. Okay, so I'm back to my cilantro, just chopping it up. I'm gonna put half of it, about a tablespoon, into one of them, into one of the bowls, and another tablespoon into the other bowl, okay? So both of the bowls will have cilantro. There we go. I'm gonna grab everything there. Again, guys, feel super comfortable to ask any questions. I'm just gonna clean this up again. I'm using that same paper towel that I used for the tomatoes. No problem. Just gonna move that over. And now we're gonna do, this is the last thing, well, not the last thing, but for now, the last thing we're gonna chop, we're gonna open up our limes, okay? If you have lemons, you can use lemon instead. I just like to use lime for my ceviche, but really whatever you have works. I know in the recipe I put that we're gonna use 3 limes, the juice of 3 limes for one bowl, and the juice of another 3 limes in another bowl. But I also put to make sure that you have extra limes, because you don't really know how much liquid is inside of your lime. So you wanna have some extra just in case. But right now I'm only gonna cut in half 6 of them. I'm just making sure we're all muted there. And I just have a bowl here, my plate here on the side, and I'm gonna put my limes there because we're not gonna use them just yet, but wherever you can place your limes, put them there, okay? But we're just gonna cut them in half. So later when we're gonna use them in a little bit, we are ready. Okie dokie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, last one. All right, guys, so our plantains should be ready. Okay, I'm actually just gonna clean up here real quick because we're gonna be using all of the space to create our tostones, all right? So if you're on the same page as me, just give your counter space a little bit of a clean. And then we're gonna go to the tostones. And this will also give the tostones, the plantains, because they're not tostones yet. This is gonna give the plantains a few more minutes in the air fryer. So just give yourself enough room. I'm gonna move my cutting board. I don't need it right now, but keep it close because when we're gonna use it to dice the fish. We haven't gotten into the fish yet. But we are almost there. All right, guys. So clean this up over here. And now I'm going to remove my plantains from the air fryer or from the oven, okay? Don't worry if you think, oh wait, they're not fully cooked. You only want them to be soft, a little bit soft. Not even, like you probably won't even be able to squeeze them with your hand. You just want them really just a little bit soft. I'm gonna bring those over from my air fryer close by. And we're also gonna be using right now some parchment paper. So if you don't have that nearby, grab a piece of parchment paper. Perfect. Okay, so here are my tostones, guys. They are still not completely cooked, but they are soft. Like, be careful because they're hot. My hands are already a little, they're used to touching warm food, but they're gonna be soft. They're not gonna be super soft, but they're gonna be soft enough that we're gonna be able to mash them down. So I'm just gonna move this back here.
Stephanie, cuando tú, o sea, cuando tú pusiste el agua, el plátano en el agua y sal, esto es para que no se ponga negro, ¿entendí?
Es para que no se queme en el horno o en el air fryer.
En el horno también se puede, o sea, ¿eso lo evita también en el horno o solo
También.
para el air fryer?
No, para los dos funciona.
Okay.
Sí. All right, guys, so here I have my parchment paper. You don't need that much. You need it to be big enough that you're gonna be able to fold it over, okay? But you don't need it so big. All right, so what I'm gonna do here with my hands or with tongs, whatever you feel comfortable with, I'm going to put one of my pieces of baked plantains, okay? I'm gonna cover it with the other half. You wanna give it enough room back here so it expands, okay? So your plantain's right in the middle. And here's where our plate comes in, okay? You're gonna be using the bottom of the plate is what's gonna touch the tostón, okay? So you're gonna be using it like that, okay? You wanna make sure, again, if it doesn't come out perfect, don't worry. But you wanna try for the plantain to go in the center of your plate. So, and the more power that you use when you push down, the thinner your plantain will be, okay? So I'm just gonna place my plate right on top of the plantain, sorry. And I'm gonna squeeze it down. Okay, don't worry if it moves to the side, it's still gonna become a circle. I'm gonna squeeze it down, and then I have my tostón, okay? I'm gonna put it right back onto my baking dish, okay? Because this is gonna go right back into the air fryer. Okay, and now we're gonna do the same thing with all of the plantain rounds. So again, we're gonna cover it, get our plate, and mash it down. So mine are moving over to the sides, okay? So don't worry if yours are also. The main point is just to create the tostón, all right? And then we have our second one. We're gonna put it here and continue to the next one. So we're just gonna do the same thing to all of them. Just press it down. All right, this is a great time for questions. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Back into here. Again, if your air fryer is small, you may need to cook the tostones in a few batches because they're nice and big and they might not all fit in your pan, in your baking dish. All right. There we go. And the reason we're using parchment paper is because it doesn't stick to the plantains. We're just gonna continue until all of them are done. You see, so if you want it to be a little thinner, put more pressure when you're pushing down. If you want them a little thicker, then don't put too much pressure. go. Perfect. And again, how I said at the beginning of the class. So what I like to do sometimes is make the tostones until this part right here, okay? And then I let them cool completely and store them in the fridge just like this. And let's say tomorrow or in 2 days, I'm in the mood for tostones. I just take them out of the fridge and put it straight into the air fryer, and it's gonna be ready much quicker. And then you can top it with some cheese, with some ground beef, pulled beef, I don't know, maybe some lentils if you're vegan or something, but that's a great thing to sort of meal prep in advance and just keep it in your fridge, and you'll have a meal. You'll have the carb part of a meal ready in a jiffy. Alrighty. This one came out a little weird, but it's still delicious. We do not discriminate here. All of these are going to be delicious no matter how pretty or ugly they are. All right, guys. So I'm
This
almost
is so relaxing, just a comment.
right? I totally agree. You can like take out all of your anger right now and like take it out, or just, you know, relax. I agree, Bobby. Totally agree. All right, so I have 2 left. So actually not all of my tostones fit in my baking dish. So I'm only gonna cook the ones that fit, and the rest, how I said before, I'm gonna let them cool completely and leave them in the fridge to use in the next few days. All righty. So let me put that here. We are done with the parchment paper. Make sure that you handle your baking dish with a kitchen towel. You don't want to get burned. It's still hot. All right, so how I said before, I'm not going to be using all of them because they don't fit. I'm only going to put the ones in here that fit. I'm just going to make 6. Okay, and then the next step before we put them back into the air fryer, this is why I have my kitchen towel nearby. Okay, I'm going to put it right here. You can either use regular oil, or how I'm going to use some spray. Okay, I'm gonna use a little bit of extra virgin olive oil spray, and just right on top of the kitchen towel, because I don't want everything to get oily, I'm just gonna, with my hand, do a few, just like a splash or 2 of the oil. Okay, this will help the plantain get nice and crispy without actually frying them. So it gives it that like fake idea that these are fried. If you have, and I'm gonna show you, if you have just regular oil, okay, you're just gonna put like a little bit right there, and then with your finger, just put it around. So a little bit of that oil and put it around. But I prefer to just use the spray. Put a few sprays there, sprays there. And then this is ready to go back into the air fryer. Okay. Any questions, guys? Are we all here on the same page as me? Should I slow down a little? Any questions if you're behind? All right, so it seems like everyone's on the same page. So let's put these back into the...
Steph,
¿Cuánto tiempo?
sí.
Como 6 a 8 minutos máximo. Okay, we're gonna cook this for, I'm first gonna put it for like 5 minutes, because you don't want these to burn. I'm gonna put it for like 5 minutes, and we're gonna keep an eye on them.
Pregúntale.
¿Los haces en el horno? ¿Cuántos minutos en el horno?
Esa era mi pregunta también. ¿En el horno qué tal?
Sí, también como 10 minutos más o menos, pero también, como saben, todos los hornos son diferentes, so chequéalo, pero como 10 minutos debería estar chévere. Quizás en el horno déjame mostrarlo aquí un segundito, quizás en el horno vayas a tener que darle vuelta. Entonces quizás lo vayas a poner por 6 minutos y después darle vuelta al tostón, así se puede cocinar los 2 lados. En el air fryer, como cocina todo alrededor a la misma vez, no vas a tener que darle la vuelta y solo lo vas a cocinar por el tiempo completo, que sería entre 6 y 10 minutos, dependiendo de la temperatura que lo vayas a cocinar, o como sea tu air fryer. Ok, buenísimo. I'm going to bring, if anyone didn't understand that because they don't speak Spanish, let me know and I can repeat it in English. I have no problem. Okay.
Putting it in the air fryer, do I put it at 400 degrees?
Yeah, that should work, Millie. Just keep an eye on it, okay? But that
Okay.
should work. How I said before, my air fryer, it just has an air fryer mode. I can't choose the temperature. So I can't tell you exactly how much because mine's just like 1, but I would say like 400, 450 should be good. Okay? Awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna start with our fish now. My fish is in the fridge. I'm just gonna take it out. If you're using white fish like me, that is awesome. If you are using salmon, I know my sister-in-law is using salmon, that totally works. If you're using tuna, I know somebody here also had messaged me that they were gonna use tuna, that works as well. But just keep in mind that it's gonna change a little bit the flavor of the ceviche, because of course, white fish is the fish that has the least amount of taste. So that's why they use it for ceviche, because it absorbs all of the ingredients that you put into the ceviche. Salmon or tuna has a little bit more. Yes.
I have a question. I have both. I have tilapia and I have salmon. Which would you tell me to like, this would be better in the Asian one and this would be better in the
So
Mexican.
you're gonna use both 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so use the salmon for the Mexican one and use the white fish for the Asian one.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'm gonna move back to the camera over here. So I have my cutting board. I'm gonna flip it over so it's a little cleaner. Okay, and I'm gonna line it with a little bit of paper towel, okay? If you defrosted your fish like I did, it probably is covered with a little bit of liquid, okay? So I'm just going to put it in paper towel so the paper towel absorbs that extra liquid. All right, so I'm just gonna put another piece on top here and just press it down, and you can automatically see all that water that is absorbed. We do not want that in our ceviche, okay? We're gonna put that there. Okay. All righty.
Stephanie, if you're gonna use tuna, which one do you recommend to use it on?
If you're gonna use tuna, same, I would use the white fish for the Asian one, and then the tuna or the salmon for the Mexican one.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, you're welcome. All right, guys, I'm gonna use the same paper towel. I have two pieces of fish. If you just have one, then you're good to go. I'm gonna put it the other way around over here and just squeeze, remove all of that liquid. Okay. Perfect. So I'm using a fish that's called corvina. I think that's how it's called in English too. It's really yummy. Okay, so I'm just gonna wipe this down, throw it out in my little garbage plate. Okay, so now, if your fish is clean, mine's not too clean, then you're gonna clean it like I am. I don't like these black pieces over here, so I'm just gonna remove that right off. All these little like membranes and that kind of stuff, I'm gonna completely remove it, just because I like it to be nice and white, okay? But if your fish is clean already, then you can automatically just start chopping up. I'm gonna take off a few of these pieces. All right, so remember you're gonna use half of your fish or one fillet of fish into one of the bowls and the other fillet in the other one. Okay, so I'm gonna cut these into two pieces just to make it easier to cut. And I'm gonna dice these, okay? Feel free to choose the size of fish that you would like, okay? If you want it to be a little bit more chunky, then you're gonna cut a bigger piece of fish. If you want it a finer ceviche, you're gonna cut it smaller. But the steps are the same. You're just gonna choose the thickness that you wanna cut. The first thing we're gonna do is slice the fish, okay? And you can see it's the same way that we've been cutting most of our vegetables. We're gonna dice it. So you're gonna slice the fish this way, just like that. And then I'm actually gonna remove this piece here. And then you're going to dice it. So you're gonna go against the slices you just made. And again, you're gonna make it the size that you want. I want mine to be sort of this size, but feel free to slice it however you'd like. Alrighty, so let me make sure we're all muted over here. Again, guys, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and let me know. Before we continue this, my air fryer just dinged and my tostones are still, they're not brown enough for me. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more time. Just make sure that you're keeping an eye on your plantains. All right, so let's finish chopping this up. If you're just using white fish, then it doesn't really matter which bowl you put it in first. I'm just gonna grab the closest one. I have my Asian style bowl right here. And I'm gonna put my white fish, my diced fish right there. And now I'm gonna finish cutting the other piece. Again, Cut it into long strands just like this. Make sure you cut through. And then you're gonna cut the opposite way to create the dice. Actually, so I'm using the tail of the fish. I'm actually gonna throw out these pieces because they don't look so good to me. And now I'm just gonna put all of this back into my bowl. Okay, so my Asian style has its fish. I'm gonna bring over my other bowl, Mexican one, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the other piece of fish. Okay, we're just gonna cut this off. And I'm gonna use this to actually cook it. All right, so I'm gonna remove, oh, this one's nice and clean. So you see, it all depends on the fish. Alrighty. So just to make it easier for me, I'm gonna cut it into 2 pieces. And the same thing we did with the other fish, we're gonna do with this one. So first we're gonna slice it, make some long strands like this. Oh, this came out all by itself. It's its own piece. I'll throw that out. Okay. Just like that. And then into cubes. I should have mentioned this before, but if you don't want your hands to finish smelling like fish, wear gloves. But we're already at this point. So if you didn't wear gloves, just a good way to remove the smell of fish from your hands is to rub your hands with a lime. Okay, you just get your fingers and you rub your whole hands with the lime, squeezing the lime, and it will hopefully remove the smell of the fish. All right, so I'm gonna put this diced fish into my Mexican style ceviche bowl and do the same thing with the last piece of fish over here. Make sure you're keeping an eye on your plantains, guys. Just check it out, make sure it's not burning. If you wanna flip them, if you have them in the oven, you might wanna flip them so both sides get toasted. After I finish cutting this, I'm gonna go check on my plantains. Almost done here. So honestly, if I had salmon right now, I don't. But if I had, I would really be using salmon for the Mexican style ceviche. I love how it comes out with salmon. But with white fish, it's still as delicious. All right, guys. So far we have, we're not going to be using, no, we are going to be using the cutting board for the avocado. So if you don't have your avocados nearby, make sure you bring those over. And now just make sure to check on your air fryer, guys. Check on the air fryer. I'm actually going to twist. I'm going to flip mine over, even though it's in the air fryer. That's just me and my OCD. I want to make sure that it all gets super delicious and crunchy. So today they're actually taking more time to cook than usual. So I'm really just going to keep them in there for like another 5 minutes. So the question before of how long you should cook it for, what temperature? I have to be honest that it varies. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes less, but usually between 10 to 15 minutes, you are ready to go. All right,
Steph, I never made tostones, so I don't know, like, I don't, do you think this is okay? Like this brown?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Let me find you so I can see you. Okay, there you are. I'm gonna spotlight you 1 second because then I can't see you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's fine.
If you want, but you choose. If you want it more crunchy, you can leave it for longer. Or if you want it like that, that works. Okay, because again, it's already cooked by now. Now we're just cooking it so it gets nice and crispy and crunchy. Okay, so again, it really just depends. Perfect. Okay, guys, we're gonna move on to our avocados. Okay, I actually have an avocado that's opened already, and I want to show you a little trick. Okay, I know that of course you see that it has a little bit of black spots. But usually when I finish using an avocado and then I just cover it with plastic wrap, the next day, almost this whole thing is black, okay? A trick that I learned is to just, and I'm actually gonna show you guys, let me get a little bit of water, is to just cover the top of the avocado with a little bit of water. You see that? Yeah, just with a little bit of water. You wanna make sure that it's completely covered, but not too much, okay? And then at this point, you go ahead and take your plastic wrap and cover it and put it in the fridge, okay? And that layer of water on top of your avocado is gonna help it prevent to get black. And now we're gonna use it. So that was just a little demonstration of how I do it. All right, so I'm gonna start with my closed avocado. Just a way, in case someone does not know how to open an avocado, you wanna take your knife, insert it wherever you'd like, and just make a complete circle around the avocado. All right, you're gonna try to find the first indentation you made, just like that. Then you're going to twist it, and you get 2 pieces. And then with your knife, very carefully, you're going to, wait, wrong place. You're going to put it right on top of the seed, twist it over as if you're just like opening a doorknob, and take it right out, okay? And then you just kind of go like that, and the seed is removed, okay? If a great way to make sure that the avocado lasts longer once it's cut, you can put this ball back into your ceviche after it's done, and they say that it prevents the avocado from getting black, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All right, so I'm gonna get one of my spoons that I'm gonna use to mix the ceviche, and just insert the spoon in between the skin and the avocado, and just remove the avocado. I'm sure many of you know how to do this, but just in case, it's always good to have this refresher. Now that avocado is so popular, I would be a little surprised if someone didn't. Okay, so you can see that my avocado came with like a little piece of a little black part, so I'm just gonna remove it. You can leave it or take it off, it's okay, your choice. And I'm gonna do the same thing with that other avocado that I have. If you have 2 closed avocados, just open it the same way we just opened that first one. All right, I'm going to use my spoon and remove the flesh from the avocado shell. I'm just gonna sort of take off these black spots over here. And now I'm gonna chop this, okay? I like to finely chop my avocado so it really gets all over and throughout the ceviche, okay? But if you like your avocados a little more chunky, then of course cut it a little, much bigger. Your call. Okay, so I'm gonna put my avocado, let's cut that right off. I'm gonna put it like this, okay? I'm gonna put like the flat side down. And then again, the same way we've been cutting all of our ingredients, we're gonna do it. So you're gonna slice it. Again, I want it very, very thin. So then when I add the rest of the liquid ingredients, the avocado sort of becomes part of this dressing, of the seasoning of the ceviche, because it's so thin. But if you want it in big pieces, cut it in big pieces. It's totally your call. All right, and then we're gonna go the other way and thinly dice it or thickly dice it, your call. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same with all of mine. The recipe calls for 1 avocado in each of the ceviches. As you can see, I'm using 1.5, so I'm just gonna split that in between. But if you want to use the whole one, the more the merrier. Who doesn't love avocado? So that's never gonna be bad. All right, and then I'm gonna cut my last one. Again, thin slices. And then we're gonna cut it against those slices. Perfect. All right, guys. Before I put these into my plates, I'm gonna check back on my plantains and just wet my hands. Okay. Let's check on those tostones. All right, so in my air fryer, these are ready, looking great. So I'm just gonna take them out of the air fryer and leave them to the side, okay? If yours are still not ready, just give it a few more minutes. So let me show you mine, okay? You see, this is how mine are turning out, all right? A little crispy on the outside, but still a little chewy on the inside. But how I said before to Bobby, you can leave it for longer if you want everything to be crispy. You can leave it for less if you want just the outside to be crispy. Ooh, these are hot. All right, let's go back to our avocados. So half of your avocados are gonna go into one of the bowls and the other half into the other one. We are almost done, guys. We are almost there. I think I'm gonna have to put this one into a bigger bowl, but we'll get there soon. Alrighty, guys, let me just wash my hands. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to first add our limes into each of the bowls. So I'm just gonna, actually, we don't need our cutting board anymore. So leave it to the side or into your sink. And I'm bringing my bowls right over here. And I have my limes ready over here as well. So half of them are gonna be squeezed into one and half to the other, but I'm actually going to take a bigger bowl because on that one, it is not going to mix. I wanted to make it all, use only glass so you guys can see, but since we have this overhead video, you can see it perfectly. Alrighty. So I'm going to squeeze, again, half of my limes into one and half to the other. If you have a lime press, go for it. I don't, so I'm just gonna use my hands. You can also use a fork to help the liquid come out. And that's actually what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a little bit of, I'm gonna take a fork and help me. I really need to buy one of those lime squeezers. They are great. So this is gonna take a couple of minutes. So just take your time. You wanna make sure that you remove all of the liquid, okay? So when you insert the fork, you sort of wanna pinch it and it's gonna open up the membranes from the lime. And since limes don't have seeds, that's why I like to use them, because if they had seeds, you'd have to put your hand and then catch the seeds, etc. Alrighty. 1, 2. Make sure you're putting 3 and 3 in each, okay? And if you see that you're gonna need more after, then that just depends on your ceviche and you can add more. All right, the lime is really the key ingredient in a ceviche, okay? That's what cooks the fish. So I wouldn't recommend, well, I mean, I like to eat raw fish no matter what. But if you're someone that's a little picky with your raw fish, then you gotta wait at least like 20 minutes after we make this before you eat it to make sure that the lime, cooks that fish. All right. And you know how I said before that the lime would help remove the smell of fish from your hands? Well, we're doing that right now, all at the same time. All right, so you just want to squeeze. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Feel free to ask. It doesn't only have to be a question about this recipe. It could just be a general cooking question.
Steph, tienes que ponerle limón suficiente para que cubra todo, porque si no necesita mucho más que 3.
No, no tiene que cubrir todo, o sea, no va a ser como el agua que cubrió los plátanos por completo, pero sí quieres que sea suficiente que vaya a condimentar todo lo que está dentro del bowl. Y bueno, y por eso dije, and that's why I said before, to make sure that you have some extra limes. For example, this one it barely has any juice, so I'm probably gonna have to use another lime here. But again, it may vary depending on how much juice comes out of your lime. All right, so I already put 3 in here. Now I'm gonna put the other 3 in this one. This is my Mexican one. Oh, this one's hard. I'm gonna need my right hand. So this is why we always like to have a lemon squeezer. It's fine, this is my exercise of the day, so that's good. Yes, questions.
Cuando yo fui a la tienda, le pregunté a la pescadería, le pregunté a la señora qué pescado me recomendaba de los que ella tenía para poder comer crudo.
Ok.
Por eso compré salmón, me dijo solo el salmón, o sea, de la selección que tenemos ahorita, solo el salmón.
Ok.
Pero en tu opinión, como le estamos poniendo el limón y eso, o sea, hubiera podido comprar cualquier pescado.
Sí, y también en mi opinión, yo no soy picky con el pescado, solo quieres asegurarte que está fresco. Quizás la señora te dijo que no te lo recomendaba comerlo crudo porque quizás no estaba fresco, era de hace un par de días y ella obviamente no quería que te caiga mal y después le digas algo, etcétera. Pero también tienes que ser una persona que confía en el pescado, right? There's many people that will...
O prepara su queso crudo Es un pescado diferente. No puedes comer cualquier pescado con sushi. Si tú vas a hacer sushi con salmón, tiene que ser salmón para sushi. Lo mismo
eso
que
es
el
lo que
pescado.
iba a decir ahorita. Yo personalmente y mi familia no compramos sushi grade fish, pero compramos fresh fish. But there are people that are picky with their fish and don't want it, you know, que darles mal, o sea, que les caiga mal el pescado, and they'll only buy sushi grade, which is totally fine. That's your option. But I and my family, we, as long as it's fresh and, you know, we buy it from Whole Foods, for example, or a really good fish market, and you trust your fishmonger, the person that sells you the fish, and they tell you that it's fresh, then I personally am comfortable with eating it. But that's your choice. All right, guys, so I'm almost done with my last lime. I'm sure you guys are all much more advanced than me because you probably all have your lemon squeezer. I'm gonna add that to the shopping list. Okay, so we're almost done with the lime. We're just gonna add the last couple of ingredients. Let me just go wash my hands because they are on fire from the lime. All right, so now we're gonna add the last ingredients for each of them. Okay, someone had asked me if they don't have sesame oil, what can they use? Okay, so the sesame oil, one, you don't use that much, you use a little bit. But if you don't have it, then you might just want to put like a little bit of olive oil or regular oil, so it gives the fish that velvety feeling that oil gives it, okay? But the reason that we use sesame oil is because the sesame oil is a delicious flavored oil that brings a lot of flavor to the meal, and of course just gives it a sesame feel. So if you don't have sesame oil, but you have sesame seeds, feel free to just put a little bit of oil and some sesame seeds in there. I'm not gonna tell you that it's gonna come out the same, but it's still gonna be good. It's still gonna be edible. And in the future, for the next one, you can add in some sesame oil. So I'm first gonna work with my Asian one, okay? So bring your Asian bowl towards you. Make sure you have your spoon. I'm gonna have to get some spoons. You wanna have 1 spoon for your Asian one and 1 spoon for your Mexican, so the flavors don't mix. So in my Asian one, I'm gonna put a half a teaspoon of sesame oil, okay? I'm gonna eyeball it because I feel comfortable eyeballing my ingredients, but if you wanna measure it, measure it. But I'm basically just gonna put a couple of, that should be good enough, a couple of drops of sesame oil. It's very important to know that your sesame oil, it goes a long way. You do not wanna add too much sesame oil. It will overpower your dish. Okay, so we added the sesame oil and now just some salt and pepper. I'm gonna freshly crack some black pepper in here. Again, to your taste. If you don't like too much black pepper, don't put too much. I love black pepper, so I always add a lot. My husband does not love it, so we always have a little disagreement when it comes with the black pepper. But if you like black pepper, add it in there. And now I'm just gonna add a nice, generous pinch of salt. But again, make it your own. And that is it for this one. Now we're just gonna mix it, okay? And the reason that I chopped my avocado very small is because I wanted to sort of be part of the dressing. And now I'm just gonna mix this all together. Okay, if you wanna mash your avocado, you can use the back of your spoon to do so. Okay. And we're actually gonna whenever I cook something, right away, I like to taste it to see if it needs some seasoning, okay? But since the ceviche needs to cook down a little bit, I'm not gonna taste it just yet. I'm just gonna finish mixing it well and put it to the side, okay? When we finish with the Mexican, I'm gonna come back to this one to just try it and see if it needs some more sesame oil or salt, pepper, maybe a little bit more lime juice. All right, so this one is ready, looks delicious. I'm gonna put it on the side. And I'm gonna bring over my Mexican one, okay? So for the Mexican one, it already has a lime. We're going to add about 2 to 4 really heaping tablespoons of ketchup, okay? This is no sugar added ketchup, you know, just for fun, but any ketchup works. I'm not gonna measure it, but you can measure it yourself. I'm just gonna do like 4 nice blobs, just like that, of the ketchup. That's like 4 tablespoons, and some salt and pepper. So back with my black pepper. The ketchup is really what makes the ceviche so delicious because it gives it that acidity and also the sweetness. It's so good. And then now a nice pinch of salt. And then we're just gonna mix it all up. You can see right there. Okay. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yes.
¿Puedes decirme otra vez qué le echaste? Que se me olvidó. O sea, no,
Claro,
no,
¿a cuál?
al que estás haciendo ahorita.
Okay, lo voy a hacer en inglés para que todo el mundo sepa, okay? This is the Mexican one, okay? So in the Mexican one, we added the white fish, okay? The diced red onion, the finely diced garlic, the tomato, the cilantro, the avocado, the lime juice, the ketchup, salt, and pepper. That is it. Right, so we're mixing it. You are welcome. We're mixing it up. Okay, this looks delicious. All right, and now I'm gonna give my hands just another mix because I have salt all over them. And we're going to taste, if you feel comfortable with tasting it right now. I know some people wanna wait until the fish is actually cooked with the lime, okay? So if you're one of those people, then in about 20 minutes, give both of them a taste to make sure that it's good with the seasonings, okay? But I feel comfortable with trying it, so I'm just gonna take a little spoon. Make sure you have all of the ingredients in there, a little bit of avocado, a little bit of onion, etc. And we're gonna try this.
Yummy.
Perfect. For me, this is perfect, okay? But I am gonna, when we're finished, I'm actually gonna let it cook. I'm actually not gonna eat it yet, but I did want to taste it. So this one is ready for me, okay? And now let's taste the Mexican one, if you feel comfortable with that. Again, get a spoonful that has a little bit of everything, a little bit of avocado, a little bit of tomato, a piece of fish, of course. And let's try that. Really good. I'm just gonna add a little bit more of pepper to mine. Okay. And just a little small squirt of ketchup. But again, that's on my end. Okay, you guys might try it and say it's perfect. And we're just gonna mix that up. And then these are both ready. We are almost done. I'm gonna plate both of these to show you how it's gonna look. Okay, so I have my little plate over here. Let me just wipe it down. I had the fish here before. Okay, I'm gonna bring 2 tostones over. All right, one for the Mexican style, one for the Asian style. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of it. Okay, right on top, right there. Perfect, so here is our Asian one. Now in the other one, I'm gonna put some of the Mexican one right on top of the tostón. And that is it, guys. Dinner is ready. You can serve this with a really nice salad, with some roasted veggies. You can also just eat it like this. But look at that. The meal is ready.
Thank you so much, Steph. This is awesome.
Oh, you are super welcome, guys.
Looks
If you're
beautiful.
still not
Thank you so
done-
much.
No, of course. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be having another class soon. I will let you know de nada.
Gracias. Te mandamos
De
fotos.
nada. Please send me
Gracias.
pictures. Mándenme
Thank you,
fotos, okay?
Steph.
You're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is so much fun.
Thank you.
Horribles.
¿Qué? ¿Perdón?
Los tostones quedan horribles.
¿Por qué?
A ver, Loford.